Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This chapter starts with Shaunaka asking Suta Pauranika, what did Vyasa do after the departure of Narada? Suta replied, on the banks of Saraswati river there is an ashram called Shamya Prasaha. That is the ashram of sage Vyasa, which is surrounded by Badri trees or Jujube trees. That is why Vyasa is also called Badarayana. So he sat there and meditated on the soul and Maya that binds the soul into samsara. Our soul, which is beyond the three gunas, starts identifying with the body the Maya gives us. This is my body, this is my house, these are my relationships, those things which my eyes see are mine, etc. And keep suffering the evil consequences brought about by this identification. Vedavyasa, after realizing that only by doing bhakti yoga can common people counteract these evils, he composed Srimad Bhagavatam. Having produced and revised the Bhagavata Samhita, the sage taught it to his son Shuka. So now Suta says, I shall now tell you the story of the royal sage Parikshit and ascent of Pandu's sons to the heaven, as this will eventually lead to the story of Sri Krishna. When in course of the Mahabharata war, the warriors of Kaurava and Pandava had fallen like heroes, and when Duryodhana had his thighs broken by Bhima, Ashwathama, son of Drona, was pained to see Duryodhana lying and writhing in pain. So he wanted to take revenge. So he quietly went at night and sliced off the heads of Draupadi's sons while they were asleep in their camp and presented them to Duryodhana. He thought Duryodhana will feel happy, but even though he was towards adharma all his life, Duryodhana was disgusted at this heinous act. Seeing the terrible slaughter of her sons, the mother Draupadi bitterly wailed. Then Arjuna gave her his word, saying, I will cut off the head of that fallen Brahmana and present it to you, then only I shall wipe your tears. Promising this, Arjuna, having Krishna as his friend and charioteer, rode in the chariot in pursuit of Ashwathama. When Ashwathama saw from a distance that Arjuna was rushing towards him, he ran for his life in his chariot as once sun god fled for the fear of Rudra. Once there was a demon by the name Vidyunmali who was gifted by Shiva a golden airplane in which he travelled behind the sun, and the difference between day and night had disappeared because of the glowing effulgence of this plane. Sun god became angry, and with his virulent rays he melted the plane. This enraged Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva then attacked the sun god, who fled and at last fell down at Kashi or Varanasi, and the place became famous as Lolarka. So here Ashwathama was running in fear like that. After some time, when he saw that his horses were tired and there was no way to save himself, so in a last effort he used Brahmashira Astra, which his father Dronacharya taught him, but did not teach him how to withdraw that missile, taking a promise that he would never use this missile. A fierce flame blazed from the missile and enveloped all sides. When Arjuna saw the danger to his life, he addressed Krishna. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvameko Dahyamananam Apavargosi Samsritehe. He says, Krishna Krishna, you are the only rescuer of those who are continuously burning with the agony of cycle of birth and death. Tvamadhyaha Purushaha, you are God Himself, existing beyond this matter. Even so, this avatar of yours is intended to relieve the burden of the earth and serve as an object of constant meditation. O Lord, I don't know what and from where this frightful flame is enveloping me on all sides. Sri Bhagavan replied, this is the Brahmashirastra, missile released by Ashwathama. There is no other missile that can overpower it. Therefore, release the counter flame of the same weapon. Arjuna did so. The two flames joined together, swelled like the sun and the fire like at the time of universal destruction. All the people who were scorched by their heat, seeing the distress of people and the impending destruction and finding approval of Sri Krishna, Arjuna withdrew them both. Then he quickly seized Ashwathama and bound him with a rope. Having forcibly bound the enemy with a rope, he was about to take him to the camp when the lotus-eyed Lord said to him, Arjuna, don't spare him. Kill this fallen Brahmana who murdered at night innocent boys in sleep. A pious man would never kill an enemy who is drunk, unguarded, insane, asleep, tender of age, stupid, terror-stricken, nor would he kill a woman, nor one who has lost one's chariot. But to slay a merciless wretch who maintains his own life at the cost of another's is to do him good. Otherwise, this man would repeat such crimes. Moreover, you gave your word to Draupadi, saying, I shall bring you the head of the man who has slain your sons. So dispose of this sinful person, O Arjuna, even though urged by Krishna, who was actually only putting his righteousness to test. The great Arjuna did not slay Ashwathama. He went back to the camp and showed Ashwathama to his consort, who had been grieving all the while. Looking intently at Ashwathama, who had been brought bound with cords like a sacrificial beast, Draupadi, who was tender by nature, bowed to him. That noble lady could not bear to see him brought in bondage and said, let him be freed. He is your Guruputra, Drona's son, that worshipful Drona by whose grace you learnt the science of archery and various missiles. It is he himself who is present in the person of his son, his wife Kripi, who is the sister of Acharya Kripa, who did not follow him in his funeral pyre only because of her son. May Ashwathama's mother not wail like how I am grieving at the loss of my children now, said the great lady who had just lost her sons but still full of compassion and wisdom. King Yudhishthira appreciated the queen's words, which were pious, fair, compassionate and noble. Every Pandava and even Krishna endorsed what she said, but Bhima alone, who stamped his foot in anger and said, we must never spare this person who inhumanly murdered sleeping youngsters without any gain. So now Krishna smiled at Arjuna and said, even a fallen Brahmana should not be slain, but a violent criminal deserves to be killed. Both these have been introduced by me in the scriptures. Now do something where you can carry out both of these commandments while redeeming the promise you made to your wife, and which is also agreeable to Bhima. Now Arjuna instantly understood the mind of Srihari, and with his sword cut off the gem which was on Ashwathama's forehead along with his hair and expelled him from his camp. Shaving the head as a token of disgrace, seizure of property and expulsion from a place, this is the form of capital punishment prescribed for fallen Brahmanas. Pandavas, who were all stricken with grief at the loss of their sons, along with Krishna. Krishna is another name of Draupadi. Krishna is Lord Hari and Krishna is Draupadi. All of them perform the cremation and other funeral rites for the departed. Thus ends 7th chapter of Book 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. See you in the next one. Hare Krishna.